What is going on, everyone? Welcome, episode 94 of Poppet's Corner. That's right, we are 6 episodes away from the big 100. I
Wow.
can't believe the show's made it this far either, buddy. But I'm super excited, super stoked. This is the first time I've had this gentleman on. Been friends a long, long time. Mr.
Go back.
Mr. Aaron Miller from Lazarus Casket and a bunch of other killer bands, which we will get into. How you doing today, sir? Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Doing great. It's a good weekend. Got a lot of music done over the weekend. Did actually a lot of recording yesterday. Had Brian and everyone from Lazarus over, minus Jason. He already did vocals during the week, but good. All I can say is good. Good stuff. Good stuff coming. Good. Everything's exciting. How are you doing, Mr. Poppet?
I'm doing good. I've been off of, obviously the social media platforms for a while now, and it's like I was telling you before, it's just finding myself and finding who I am every day, and I look forward to
Focus on you.
Yeah, I focus on me now. So it is what it is. But dude, how the show works is I'm going to go through your entire musical career here.
Okay.
Before we get started, though, you've mentioned, recording with Jason. I just got to ask, with his current condition, though, like, how do you schedule the sessions? Like, how do you work around what he's got going on with him, health wise?
So he's going through a lot. He's his back issues, and that takes a lot out of screaming, putting everything up front. It takes your whole body to flex up, and so that I could understand was an issue. It got to a point where these songs on the new record, I'm going to release a little, actually, I'll just, Beyond Cryptic's Vault is going to be the name of it. So obviously the studio is, Beyond Cryptic Studios. So it's a vault of kind of like our garage days, of Metallica, of things we're going to give respect back to the industry and things we've grown up on, things we're inspired by. So, long story short, Jason has heard these songs in Dropbox, building, morphing. They need vocals. So finally, he just said, "You know what? That's going to be my therapy right now. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to lay him down." So it's been a struggle, though. He really has to pace himself when he's screaming. The body's no joke. When your body is an instrument, that's.
Well, but it's one of those things where, like, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Like, even walking is like,
you take it for granted.
You take it for granted. Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like,
Your
once
back,
you don't have it anymore, it hurts.
It hurts.
It's not fun.
At least we could sit down and play guitar. Jason has to really use it. So, but he's been trooping, dude. These songs. We have 6 covers on them that we're going to do. We have a couple originals. It's going to be like a 13-track album. The tone on it, we were just talking about the Kemper.
Ooh. Yes, we were.
Dude, this tone is massive. It's going to, it's amaze balls. You guys are all going to flip. And Tanner, you know what the Kemper brings.
I'm just going to say, a nice cheers to you, buddy, and a nice cheers to that. So there you go.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah, I just got my Kemper like 2 weeks ago. I've been farting around with it too much or not enough, as I call it.
Never enough.
Yeah, I've found it invigorating where, like, I play guitar literally every day now. I haven't done that in like 2 years.
Good. Is that social media? Getting off social media?
It was one of those facts.
You're focusing on, that's good.
And the other thing, obviously, that I can talk about, contracts are signed and everything, is that our first album is getting re-released on CD and vinyl for the first time. So I've been kind of just going back, like I don't really usually do this, but I've been going back to the start or that album, and I've been jamming the album on guitar every day just to get my chops up, because it's
and bring back those riffs. Like,
I try to remember them.
Dude, so I got three bands, and I feel that struggle. It's I have to come home. I have to play 40 songs, at least once a week out of those, selection of songs that we are ever going to play live between all the bands, just to keep up on them. Other than that, you will forget. But a good thing, a good tool that I got is Guitar Pro. You tab out your own stuff. So I've done that with a lot of our older stuff, like the stuff that you're going back to. I went to a lot of my older stuff, and I tabbed it all out just so I don't forget it.
Well, see, and I've luckily I have smart bandmates who do that every record, and I did it for the first two.
It's smart.
Because like I was like, oh, I'm not going to forget these songs. I play them, but dude, you really do forget them as time moves on, because you write new songs and then you play those a shitload, and then you forget, the other ones, and yeah, so good. I mean, but
good that you're back at it.
But my point in all this is like just like playing guitar again and going backwards, and it's like everything accumulates, and it's made me refocus on some things that I've neglected to focus on, and I'm extremely happy, and I'm happy to be speaking with you.
Music brings it all together, man.
Absolutely, my friend. So if let's get started, if you don't mind.
No problem.
And yes, we do have the new Poppets Corner koozies.
I need a koozie.
I will send you one, man. If you want one, email me or text me, or just leave me a comment or something.
I'll
get in touch. And yeah.
I'm talking to you.
That's right. So let's get started, man. When was your first recollection of just hearing music for the first time, and kind of what did it do for you?
That's good. So Ozzy has always been Ozzy. Any Led Zeppelin, any hard hitting classic stuff was the first thing that intrigued me. A lot. Also Michael Jackson back in the day when I was little. That's a weird kind of inspiration off moving forward, but I think a lot of it is the older stuff always brings you to where you're gonna be. Like you were just listening to those tunes you were listening to when we were first starting the show. That's where it all started, and that's where it started with me. The older stuff, Randy Rhoads, a lot of the drumming, like any old school bands that have that thunderous drumming, has always intrigued me as a younger player.
Now, how old were you when you heard music for the first time?
Oh, shoot. Well, I started playing guitar at 8, so yeah.
Wow.
30 years ago, 29 years ago.
But you were what, 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken, or something? Most people are like 4, 5, 6, 7. When they're when
you first hear it, yeah, and it could be subliminally, it could be in the car with your mom, or and I think that is it too. My mom is a rabid classic rock listener, so I think it's always been in the ear, and it all started from there.
But what did it do for you? And you mentioned drums, but what particularly about the drum sound or tone or playing did it for you?
That heartbeat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, just going off of the classic rock stuff, when did you decide? I don't know. What do you do at 6, 7, 8, and 19, whatever?
Well, back in the day when are you talking about starting music, like starting playing that young, or
even before that though? Like what were you doing just before picking up an instrument?
Oh, playing hockey. I was semi-pro in hockey. So, I made it to pretty much the Ice Dogs, Long Beach Ice Dogs, and then went and did music. So that was my life, like from being a child up, and even before music was hockey.
Isn't it interesting that us kids always had to play a sport as a kid?
Yeah. Well, back in the day, you drank from a water hose, you played a sport, you got outside.
Slip and slides and all that good stuff. For those who don't know what a slip and slide is, Google it.
Yeah. Or a CD player.
I still got a few of those, my friend.
Dude, yeah. Okay. That's another subject.
But playing ice hockey and then moving into wanting to play an instrument, where is that correlation? How does that happen?
I've always played an instrument by my number one was hockey. My mom always worked nights. I traveled. I used to go to Toronto. I used to go on traveling teams, and that was always my number one. But I always played music. Once I hit 17-ish, music is the way I wanted to go. That was the direction. Once I got to it, I was capping up with hockey. I got to the semi-pro, and I wasn't feeling it anymore. It was something that I always pushed as a kid. I always felt that I had to do it, and music, I was able to branch out and Scandinavian metal, like In Flames, that Gothenburg sound really got me as like in 20s Colony and Flames Colony. That's when I kind of turned. I'm like, fuck, I love melodic death metal. I'm going to do it.
Interesting. So it's kind of, was there any, that's a long gap though, just to like, so let's go back real quick. So at age 8, you mentioned you played guitar. Was that indeed your first instrument?
So my sister Jody, she got an acoustic guitar. She didn't want to take lessons, didn't want to play, and that's when I was younger. And so she put the guitar down, but she didn't want to give it to me. So I toughed it out. I made mom give me the guitar, and that's how I started.
Interesting. Yeah. And what about just either holding the guitar kind of did it for you, or it was just, I could make other sounds that are kind of beyond me, so to live on.
I think it's something as a kid when you strum it, or you hear like that harp kind of, you don't even have to play a note or anything, but I think that's just something that grows on you if you got it, and it grows on you, or if you don't, you don't.
And was that the indication of what music offered you that hockey may have not?
Yes. I think it was a satisfaction that I could do my own thing, and I don't have to be a robot. And
like, you don't have to rely on like a team to sort of, do that for you. You could do it by yourself on your own time, right?
Absolutely.
Now going off of,
that's the beauty of it. That's
absolutely.
That's the beautiful thing about music. No rules at all.
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's no boundaries for it. But even going into, say 7th, 8th grade, what was the climate of music around, your junior
that was
Sublime,
like Sublime. I was in a reggae. This band Lost and Found. It was an acoustic reggae band. We got on Star 98.7 back in the day. That was my first band, because that's what was around. You had Sublime, the big, the 90s. It was either you go grunge or you go that Chris Cornell, that acoustical. It was a very weird time, but a beautiful time. I think the 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, the metal that's where it is.
Absolutely. But okay, so let's go off of your first band. How did you find these guys? Would they sit in your classrooms and just, hey, I'm into this band?
Actually, yeah, me and Dude, our old bassist for Lazarus, Daniel replaced him.
Right.
Me and him go way back. We were in Lost and Found together, but me and him started Lazarus. We were in music appreciation class in school. And
wow.
And I was playing a horn. He was playing drums, and because I used to play trombone in elementary and all through band. That's how I started, trombone. And we were in music appreciation, and we're like, and that's when, towards the end of the high school, that's when I first heard the Scandinavian metal. I've always heard Metallica. I've always heard, riffs, just dun, dun, dun. But once I'm hearing the dun, 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 the melodies, I was like, fuck, mind blown. And so me and him in 2008, we started Lazarus. I was, we got out of Lost and Found, or I quit that because I wasn't feeling it. I was just playing,
But let's just concentrate on the Lost and Found era, if you don't mind. So when you met these guys and started jamming, I'm assuming it was a garage band type of deal. You would probably
Absolutely.
go over to homie's house, whoever's house.
But
it was.
we had a hungry singer, and he was a good businessman. That's how we kind of moved up to get on the radio, at least with a song. And he was very business mind orientated. So I think he was the driver of that, and he looked for us like as just good musicians. I was already playing metal before that. I had a band called Summon the Beast. That was but it wasn't really a band. It was just a garage thing right before Lost and Found. So right, keep going. So that was the metal started before it, but I think I just had to be a pro musician because this guy saw that we could play, put an acoustic in my hand, and I'm gonna play for that.
And branching off of that, just going into the studio for the first time, what was the experience for you? How did you feel just even putting it down for the first time?
Oh, dude, that changed my life. That's why I'm producing now. That changed my life. Stepping into a studio and seeing the magic, seeing what music can really be, and it gives you chills each time. So those first chills stepping into the studio that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Was it like a 2-song EP, 3-song, or was it a full album? Was it just
No, that
demo?
one was a 4 song.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But taking those 4, and we're speaking with the Lost and Found era, correct?
Correct.
But even just recording it, getting it in your hands at the time, I'm assuming.
Oh my gosh, it's like gold.
Absolutely, dude. Did you kind of pass it around school even before getting it on the radio, or was it just like
everywhere back then? You remember it was CD demos. You put a mark on it and you give it to everybody. Yeah, that was the excitement back then. That was the excitement with demos.
And do you remember, like, did you flyer? If people that don't know,
absolutely. Yeah, right.
We would literally
if I could have a camera around the studio right now, I have a bunch of old flyers and stuff on the walls, and that's stuff you don't see anymore.
Well, you don't see a lot of physical stuff anymore.
No,
but maybe for good and bad reasons. I'm just that physical guy, just like you.
Me too. Dude, I'm still glad the venues still put posters up so you can take them, and put them at your house. I'm thankful that at least that's still around.
Totally.
Like Europe, I have a whole box of flyers that I got from every venue of bands that were coming in and out, and I stashed them and I took them back home. And if we didn't have those venue flyers or posters, you wouldn't have nothing these days. As a musician that wants something to hold on to.
Well, you probably wouldn't, you have something from the past that you can always hang on to. I feel bad for the musicians that, will never experience that
era. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Going to, yeah.
I feel I was kind of the last of that generation though.
But at least you got it. At least you
at least I got it, right?
You might have got the tail end, but you were there.
I was still here, and I still am, just like you and everyone else. Now, branching off of, so you get the demo in your hand, pass it around school and stuff. What is the initial reaction just around your schools? Just around your friends, hearing it for the first time. Was there any sort of buzz before the radio thing?
Not with that style. I think it was back then. Everyone kind of did that pop, that acoustic sound. So when I started seeing some people getting excited, it was towards the metal creating process and having a record with metal, licks on it more than that pop stuff back then. Now it works. It's a different system. You got Post Malone on the radio. You got to go that pop route. But the metal world is still building. But back in 2000, that's like when I shifted from that, I didn't get a lot of response. I mean, we got response, obviously, but it wasn't like, oh my God, you guys did that, because it's just strumming.
Right.
But when you can actually create melodies and create meaning through those melodies, a story through the song, that's when it becomes real.
Absolutely. And, branching off of that as well, just getting it on the radio is a huge thing.
Right.
Now, walk me through that whole process. How did you guys even just get in touch?
Well, we did a 98.7 with Richard Blade. Do you remember him?
Doesn't ring a bell, but that was also 21 years ago.
Yeah. So he held it, and it was a battle of the bands sort of thing. And but it all went off your submissions of what you gave them as your songs. I mean, they really judge that, and then they come and see you play live, kind of like a showcase for a label. That same scenario. You got to give them the product first, and then they're going to come see if you can actually do it.
And And obviously you mentioned your singer having, some sort of business sense
Business mentality, yeah.
and getting it on the radio for the first time. You know, after it was all said and done, just does the singer come back to you and say, "Hey, we got on the radio. It's going to premiere this time," and
No,
then
it
I'm
was like we got to do more work, and we got yeah, no time for celebration ever. You know that.
well, that is sort of true. But were you? I mean, obviously you had to know that it was going on the radio, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so just putting it on the dial for the first time and
So
being like,
cool.
wow,
That's
we're on
me.
the radio. That's me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That it must have just had a great
Surreal.
feeling. Yeah,
Yeah, surreal. Surreal.
totally. And immediately after that, you decide, not immediately after, but a few years go by and you join a metal band. But was there anything in between for you, musically speaking?
It was kind of like a bitter end, because I always knew what I wanted to do. I didn't have the right drummer. I didn't have, for metal back then. It was like, you had your 3-piece, your 5-piece drummers, but you really need a good drummer for the backbone to do anything metal. You know that. And I think it was once I found a good group of guys, I jumped ship and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. After that,
Now,
there's
uh-huh.
unless it's paying your bills, there's only so much you can do as a pro guitarist and kind of just roll with the punches, before there's a breaking point and you really want to show your artistic, passion.
Absolutely, man. What was the climate like for you in terms of the metal scene? Because you're what, Orange County based, LA based guy?
Yeah, LA, Long Beach. Metal scene back then was great. We had Sangre, we were all buddy, like Caustic, it was Army of Ghosts. It was a good metal scene back then with Lazarus, Casket when it first started. You had All God's Kill. We all were buddy bands, all playing everywhere. And it was a good scene back then when it first
And
started.
and what was some of the styles that were coming up in your specific time that we're talking
A
about?
lot of it was more melodic. It was more on the melodic end back then in 2008. A lot of the bands around were playing that melodic death metal. But I really I wanted something different. I wanted something that had not just heavy groove, just something, but still hit you. You could have tremolos, you could have melodies all over the place, but you still need that something to hit you. So it goes back to the drummer. Once you get a good drummer that can keep those alive and not just, blast beats light, and you still need it. But everything back then, to answer your question, it was more melodic to a lot of the bands. Yeah.
Was it? But so we're talking 2008, and we're talking Orange
All
County.
right.
So how did you feel about the whole metalcore kind of thing? Because it sounds like you were kind of a part of it, which is no knock to anybody here. But like, how did you feel where it was kind of going, and where did you want to see yourselves being different in that specific kind of community?
And that's probably where frantic Lazarus sound came from. I wanted to add, which is funny how Jason got in the band, because the way I write guitar parts are very emotional and very frantic at certain points, and then they'll drop and then they'll get beautiful and then frantic. And Jason's a very frantic and pissed off guy, and that's where it works perfect. But I wanted to do something different like that. I didn't want to just hold a tune. You got to do something different to branch out from being a local band. You always got to try to be original.
Right,
And
but I mean, but you don't do as many breakdowns. Is kind of where I'm getting to this whole
no,
this
I
whole
was
thing.
never into that. You got to throw breakdowns in to keep the kids happy, but it's not about the breakdown.
Well, I mean, see, that's where I differ.
And as you could see, metalcore or all that is dying out.
Oh, I mean, I didn't even know it was still around. I mean,
Right.
if it is, that's awesome,
And
but
that just goes to show that any genre they'll weed themselves out by, and the longevity of certain genres will prove to be true. and look where we are. We're still
Absolutely.
around.
But you still have that influence in the Lazarus Casket sound. You can't tell me that it's not there.
Well, it's
You know,
there.
there you know, you have, but and there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with it at all. But you guys
Absolutely.
were kind of, you know, in integrated in that community. You know, you had two different scenes back then in the late 2000s, and it was the thrash thing, and it was obviously the
Melodic.
metalcore thing. Yeah, the melodic thing, whatever you want to call it. But you guys were more integrated in the melodic kind of scene. So I just was curious if you kind of saw the writing on the wall, and how you guys, you know, what
Branched
you guys
out.
did to be different from that is all.
And
Yeah.
that's it. You throw the little breakdowns, keep them happy, because you got whatever's thriving right there, but you branch out and make your directive, you know, how Casket is for me. The directive is to do something different. Throw those breakdowns in every now and then, but go your path.
Yeah, and I always thought Casket was like a tin, you know, like akin to that specific era because of, you know, you still putting in those influences. It just kind of takes me back to that whole era, for good or
Well,
bad
I mean,
reasons.
and don't get me wrong, I'm a little older than you, and so I like old Kill Switch, so I'm always gonna add those breakdowns, you know, like the yeah, like old Kill Switch is probably the perfect example. I never listened to a lot of metalcore. But I'm always gonna throw those choppy fucking, you know, drops every now and then. I'm always gonna do that. Not for anybody else, not for the genre. I'm not gonna call it, you know, deathcore or break your back core, or, you know, it's still us. It's still melodic metal. But yeah, to get to that point, that is a part of me. It might be because how I grew up listening to the old new metal, old you know, that's just part of what I grew up listening to. So I don't think it was following like certain deathcore bands. I think it was just somehow that infused into Casket out of.
Well, but out of that whole era, you were just a part of that specific scene.
Yeah.
Is all. Now moving forward, how did you specifically meet the guys to form Lazarus Casket?
So dude, I told you about David Johnson. We call him Dude. He's a dude. We were in music appreciation, and I wanted to push for metal, and we went to a union picnic. I'm in the pipefitters union, so went to a union picnic. They have an annual picnic, and met our drummer Chris O'Reilly. He goes, I love Megadeth. We were just chit chatting, and I was like, you love Megadeth? Let's go fucking jam. And that was right after Lost in Fact. That's when I hung it up. I found a drummer, and I was like, fuck it. Let's go play metal right now. We left the union picnic, went in a garage. I brought my old, I have a dime guitar up here, old school one, and brought it in there, and that's where it started. That's me, Dude, and Chris, meeting Chris at the union picnic. Starting it just like that.
But he was also a couple years older than you, correct?
Yeah, Chris.
Yes.
Yes.
And how did you find your balance with his specific style?
That has always been. I always respected what he you know, as a musician, you gotta hone in, and you gotta do you gotta really practice your instrument. You got to put the hours in daily. I come home, I make sure I put 2-3 hours a day in on music every day, or else I feel like shit. I feel like I'm not progressing. Problem with Chris, great guy, not taking nothing away from that, but from him on the other turn of our new drummer, or just Whitey. You know, Whitey's a hell of a musician. He takes it to the bone, takes it seriously. He practices his craft. He knows it. Chris, he was something that we needed to get started. He was a true pioneer of Lazarus Casket. That's how we got started. It's just, I always had to push him to practice his instrument. And when you got to push someone, and they're not putting the work in, it's really, in the end, it hurts your craft, you know?
Oh yeah, it's very
So
frustrating.
eventually I had to branch out from that, and thank God for Whitey, dude. Whitey is a godsend.
Oh, I love Whitey.
I know,
His
everyone
name
does.
is just ironic to me. which is funny.
Mhm.
But
Good guy.
great guy. Yeah, he rules. Now, um, and we'll get to the Project Human stuff a little bit later, but let's just focus on the Casket, just the humble beginnings. I think Neil, didn't you play with Neil around that specific time as well? Didn't you form something with him?
Formed project.
You formed Project. Okay, so we'll get to that.
Yeah, but Neil, so towards the end of Casket, we took a hiatus. We had a dropout with our old drummer Garen from I can't think right now of the band name, but Gabe, our old guitarist, and Garen stepped in on drums for a little bit. They didn't work out, and we lost a lot of drive for Casket. But we took hiatus. Me, Dude, and Jason, we kind of just sat in the back, and I got rid of them because it just wasn't working. It was just more of a depressing type thing. When you get in a room and no one's clicking, and everyone's on what they want to do. So that just didn't work out. We took a hiatus. Then what happened with that? Then Neil. So we needed a guitarist. I got good with Neil. Neil was a pain in the butt back in the day, like way back in the day. I don't know if you've heard the stories.
I have not. I'm not from.
He has a great heart, though. He's like a dime for the metal scene. He would be open, God rest his soul, but he was the best thing that we all needed. That energy. Jason has a past with him. So I brought it up to Jason. Neil he was long hair. He grew his hair out. He was metal. He was all about it. He wasn't into whatever he was into back in the day. He cleaned up. And I told Jason, I'm like, what about bringing Neil in the band? No, Neil, never. That was a response that I got. No, Neil, never. And I was like, shit. So I said, okay. And then in the back of my head, that now we're going where Project starts. In my head, I always I love certain courses that have clean singing, that have meaning. It's something that I've always wanted to do. Right with meaning. I love my melodic death metal. That's my rage. That's my yum. But in the end, I do want to get a point across. And so that's where I took Neil from the no Neil never. I took it into Project. I brought Neil on board, and Neil was the biggest thing for Project, how we got our sound, and brought Chris back in the loop, because Chris out of Casket, that's where Chris came back in, because he was more of a hooky drummer. You just need that steady heartbeat,
Right.
So it was Casket, he didn't work out because it's too much, it's a different genre. But for Project, that's where we kind of linked back up, and he was the backbone for that.
Totally. Well, let's go to the Casket era. Just recording I think the first album and first EP, with and bringing Jason into the fold. When did, the previous singer kind of not work out for you?
They all worked out. They all were good. They just didn't have that drive. It went back to, I had to push everything. And then they end up getting pissed at me like I'm a dick, but I'm just trying to make the ship go. And that's where the fallouts. They were all great singers. Irby, we had Mike Zito, we had great singers. Matt Burke was our first singer. Me and him, we used to go to shows like at the Showcase in Corona, Scar Symmetry, and great shows out there, Cataclysm, back in the day. I mean, years ago when the Showcase was still open. So all our singers were great. Jason had that pro. In the end, that's what makes everything go. I'm pro, he's pro. Anyone that's in a band that has longevity, y'all got to have that. You can't have someone steering. Everyone's got to steer.
And you knew Jason just from around the scene? Okay.
Yeah, the scene. Yep.
But how did you know? Oh yeah, from All God's Kill. So
he got out of All God's Kill, and it was like a perfect transition.
Totally.
I was looking for a singer. I know Jason's pro, and that's how we linked up. It was like we lost our singer, he lost his band. It was perfect.
Yeah, and I remember when you guys kind of linked up, around like the 2013 era. I think 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
And I just remember him because, Jason's he still is the guy, but he was the guy even back then where like, he
He
was
took
he
initiative. Like
yeah,
no one was
uh,
trying to make the scene what it is today. And
dude.
Jason is one of those founding people that made these shows happen for all these bands that whether uh all of us what's the one with Conan Ex
Oh,
Mortis.
Ex Mortis,
But I
yeah.
mean, even back in the day, they were playing shows with Jason. It's
But
Jason did put a stamp on our scene for
oh,
sure.
he still is, and
Hmm.
and God bless him for it. Um,
Absolutely.
but I just remember, you had to get in that camp, and you still have to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's obviously we're brothers and everything else, but back in those times, it's like if you got that guy, if you had that guy, especially in your corner, you were in good
You're backed
hands.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, but you were in good hands, and that's what we do for each other.
Absolutely. All of
Scratch
us.
my
I
back.
do the same for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and vice versa.
Hmm.
No, but getting in your band is a different thing. So, what did he bring that besides the drive? What else did he bring into the Casket fold? That was a little bit
Those
different.
high screams. Though I mean, that's what we needed. We had Irby, our singer before him, was more Matt Heffy-ish, like aggressive, but still he could scream, but more Matt Heffy, like more raspy, aggressive singing. We had Mike Zito before him, and Mike Zito was a deathcore guy, so it was more of the Jason brought that even of the highs, the melody, you know, in the pocket for us.
And then obviously his contacts certainly helped as well. That
Oh,
doesn't hurt,
absolutely.
right? Now, but we're going into the recording. So walk me through the recording process for this EP, because I know there was some sort of turmoil with it, where like
With
either
Mark Hagblad, okay, yeah. You're
go
talking
for it.
about in the studio. Yeah, yeah.
Correct, in the
So
studio.
so we had so the thing is, the way these songs were written before, going in, I had an idea, we all had an idea how we wanted them. Mark Hagblad, he's a great producer. I picked his brain. I've learned a lot from that guy. Great guy, but he knows what's important. For hooks, though, the problem with Lazarus, we don't want to be a hooky band. And that was a big butting head, with I really had a fight for a lot of things. A lot of things changed for the better, like matching up your kick with your rhythms, exactly what they're playing together. But sometimes you don't want to do that in death metal. Sometimes you want the guitars doing something a little different. That's where we would butt heads. But the overall sound, I mean, you can hear it where the kicks are kicking and it's heavy. That's Mark's input. Where it's frantic and it's kind of still deathy, that's my fighting and Jason's fighting for it, for what we wanted. And
And
that was
he
the only term. Like there was really no drama. It was just that, like, you don't know what's real until you have to fight a producer on what you want.
well, I mean, but Jason joining, obviously, you guys still use the same lyrics. He came in and recorded. I think the lyrics had already been written when he came in, from my understanding, and he obviously recorded that all the songs. The EP comes out now.
He did two new songs with his own lyrics, originals,
Okay,
on that
okay,
EP.
gotcha.
Your
And
Demise and Engraved were Jason's.
that's right. That's right. You're right. Yeah, obviously you're right. But yeah, there you go.
Well, I better be. No, I'm
I
kidding.
better be. Yeah, that's right. Um, but now with the EP released, this is the next step for you guys, and I'm just kind of curious. Again, the initial response from what I saw was kind of lukewarm. It wasn't like pressed a whole lot. What happened there?
So with and that you just said it. We didn't get it out there, I don't think, on the right levels because for one, we've learned a lot over the years how to get it out there, how to press it right, and um mainly getting that EP done was to solidify ourselves as a professional sound. I think that was the most important thing than getting it out there to the masses. I think it was more figuring out what we want to progress our sound into Warriors, into the next one, into finding our sound rather than giving it out there, you know, focus on the next. And then once we can get a good solid record, we'll press it.
And then you had a first album that came out as well, even prior to the EP, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Another EP.
You had another EP that came. Okay, so the differences between the two, obviously,
and that one
vocals.
was recorded in a studio, like old school, everyone in a room. That was
I
the
love
beautiful
those.
thing about it. Yeah, I wish you could still do that.
I'm sure you
And
can.
where, yeah, well, of course, with the right money and the right know-how and the right who you know and the people that know how to do it, absolutely. But the feeling of everyone in a circle and everything mic'd up, and a lot, we'll go back to a lot of kids won't even know what that is. You know, back to the flyer thing. A lot of kids won't know that feeling.
Absolutely.
They'll never be able to know that feeling because everything's digital. Everything's going, and it's not like you can't do it. You have to keep up with that digital big low end sound that is today's music.
Well, it also takes a certain kind of musician to be able to do that. You know, back in the
Absolutely.
day, that's all you could do in recording. You
Yeah,
had to
you had
play
no
as a
other
band.
choice.
You had
Yeah.
no other choice.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's probably why all the musicians that came before us are way better than what we ever will be. Because,
But
you
the
know,
beautiful thing about the Kemper, I'm getting out of my box of DIing a lot to get that big sound, because with the Kemper, I'm micing up my cabinets in here and they're fucking sounding thunderous with that thing.
But you probably have a DI track just in case. I'm sure you have to have that just as a safety net.
That's going to be a secret for our next album, though.
Okay.
It's going to, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to spoil that. I'm just saying, like, you know,
No
you
worries.
want to probably have a DI.
You want to have that backup. Exactly.
Just in case you don't like your tone. Right?
Well, or to keep, it goes back to keeping up with today's production. You got to have that big sound. Nothing can sound naked and acoustic. It's got to be that thunder right up front.
Totally. And even just getting Project Human in correlation with Lazarus Casket, you were kind of doing both and still are doing both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
With scheduling and obviously you guys don't really tour. You guys don't really tour a heck of a lot. Yeah, you guys are really busy. So, you know, what influences do you put into, say, the Project Human Camp that you don't with Lazarus, and vice versa?
Well, I wrote a lot of the songs, vocals, and Whitey's the singer with Project. But that's a big difference. That's what I bring to Casket is it's another world. Like Project is kind of what's in my mind. Casket's what's in my body. And that's kind of the way I look at it. Like Project, there's not really any backing to that. Like Project is going to be more of a studio band. That's the way I see it. Studio releases, anything that like I did a release over the year about the unrest that happened. I think I'm going to use that more directive towards that. Anything that has meaning that I want to get across in my mind. If you get what I'm saying?
Interesting. But so that I want to go back to the point you just mentioned. So Lazarus is what you're feeling in the body.
The angry, yeah.
Interesting. And then obviously the
Project
mind is more
points what I want to get across. You get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, you put more acoustic kind of tendencies into the Project Human Camp. From what I can tell,
more of a story.
And you released obviously, which we'll get into, the double album, which is his and hers,
which has the one for hers, the one for him. You know,
right?
Yeah.
Now, but with all these projects, like I'm just, it's just kind of mind blowing to me, and I don't mean to put anybody down, but like, you know, in your mind, like, why wasn't there as much focus on the like the PR stuff, like getting it out there to the world, rather than like, because obviously you can, I know it's not your specific job to probably do everything in this band, but
we could, once it's worth pushing on that, on doing it yourself level, there's a time for that. the most important thing is connections and meeting the right people rather than putting it out to everyone. You're going to spend years on hard work trying to just push. In the end, you got to network. You got to meet the right people and then you push. And that's the route that I found has been more successful. You got to meet the right people. You got to network, or else you're just pushing as a lone, survivor push constant.
Well, yeah, but that's life. That's getting more, intelligence with the years of just living.
Going through it.
Yeah, just going through it. But you have to go through it, and I'm just kind of again going. How come there wasn't as much of a focus on that just in the beginning? Was it that you didn't have those connections?
No, always wanted to do something better, and I don't want to put so much effort into something that isn't. Everyone's got to believe in it, and if you don't have that right feeling, you got to go for the next one and then push that, because in the end, no matter how much you push, you got to have a good product. You have to have that confidence behind your product, and then you press it.
Okay. I mean, I could
now we have that confidence. Like Warriors, the first EP was great, good production. Now we're finding our groove. We're finding the meaning of the songs, the meaning of the bandmates. Daniel's in now, so this new record is gonna blow your fucking mind.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
It's gonna be awesome.
Now but that's so interesting. You're probably the first person to say that, and I've always thought this too. You do have to have confidence when putting out any form of art.
You have to, because the biggest critics are going to be on that other side going, make it better.
Well, the biggest critic should be you.
Should be you, but you're not paying your bills, Well,
nobody pays their bills with this, unfortunately.
It could happen.
Well, it could, right, but not in a local market.
You got to network. You got to network your way through. Yep.
Yeah, but even just not being scared to network is, I guess, where I'm going with this.
Yeah, and that a lot of people are shy. A lot of people are shy to get that. That's one big part. It goes back to the whole press thing. Like that, as big as you're pushing it. The biggest other thing is networking. That's the hugest thing, and getting out of your box and networking is the biggest step you can do as a musician. Not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and I almost think that's more important than kind of the music themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
100%.
I think when I had this conversation with Matt Harvey of Exhumed, he's like, dude, you could be the best guitar player in a subway, and if nobody knows who you are, then you're not. Then
you're nothing. You're just pushing it to.
Or you could be AC/DC and do the same 4 chords and be the most successful fucking band.
It's all about the recipe. It's all about the recipe in a song, the recipe in a genre, and knowing that recipe is going to make you viable and have longevity.
And I think that's where
it's knowing the right recipe. It's knowing with what you're writing. Attack music not as something that you think is cool. Attack it as something. What is the meaning of this? What is this going to bring to the other end of the spectrum? What is the listener going to get out of this? What chills are going to be brought up on? That's where you're going to have longevity.
Yeah, and if you have that mentality, though, that's when the confidence comes in.
Absolutely.
Like if you're confident in that this music I know is going to move somebody. Somebody's going to like it. If you have that mentality, I think that's where musicians need to find it within themselves.
That's what we all need to focus on. That's the only thing that's going to get you anywhere out of a garage, anywhere out of your own head, is finding out the importance of the business. It's a business. That's the way we all have to look at this. It's not, look how cool I am, look how cool it sounds. It's where's your directive and who are you going to meet to find that right directive? And
absolutely.
That's the only way you're going to have longevity.
Absolutely, man. And now, let's go to the project stuff. Recording the first record with them, your approach to this, did you find yourself where maybe some of the decisions because I always think it's okay to make a first album, but was there a moment when you were after it had already been released, you wanted to add more to it? When was that point where it was like
so for project, that's where I learned a lot with with my musical career is there's no rules. There's no hold bars. There's no go back. Give it your all and give it your feeling. And you don't need to critique it as much. Of course, there's going to be instant, I'm going to hear some things where, I could have done that better, but I use that for my next record. I use that as learning experiences and not just, I don't want to hear that again. I'll indulge in it. I'll still hear a little twang or something that bleeded over, or it's not going to bug me. But yeah, to answer that, I don't have any regrets. I never would go back on, because it's all vocally driven with Project. It was never about the music. It's about what what we can get across for what we want to get across.
True. That is true.
Not about the music. It's about the point, the what we're trying to get across.
But from just learning how to do a first album too, what things
and
did you
first one I produced that one.
Absolutely. What were some of the techniques that you transferred into the his or hers kind of era for Project?
Well,
what techniques worked for you? What techniques didn't work for you?
Well, then again, the his and hers was it was a little bigger production, but it was still off that I wing it a lot in the studio and everything. And I think that is a beautiful thing that a lot of musicians should indulge in. Don't overthink. Never overthink when you're in. Just wing it. And so same thing with Project. Lazarus, our new stuff, Warriors and all that. That's where I want to stamp my producing end, because it's having good production. That's what I'm focusing on, that end. Even with the his and hers, I did so for the people that don't know, the Hers album is like an acoustical we did a lot of acoustic songs. I do a lot of cleans, and it's a lot of it's mellow. So if we're trying to be metal, I wanted to get a laugh out of it too. It's like, make that we took everything, and it was a lot of songs. So we just divided the album. We made our slower, more mellower songs for her, and then the heavier ones for him. And that's how we made the album, the double. We have the hers and his.
And I think it's brilliant though that
Thank
you
you,
even
man.
thought of that concept,
Well, you got to get a kick out of it too. I don't want to, I know metalheads, so I don't want to force, any kind of, like our slower stuff on them. If I can make something funny on album, I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it to, give them an option. If they want to pop in a record and just hear heavy shit, give them that. If it's a Sunday, they're making breakfast, they want to hear mellower shit, put in the hers.
Right. But what do you, yeah. And I might have already asked this already, but when you write for Project, you already what kind of fan listens to Project Human.
Absolutely.
Right? So when I don't want to say you pertain to them 100% of the time, because that's almost impossible.
That's damn near impossible.
Yes. But what do you sort of look for when you're writing for Project? What in your mind is that you think is going to pertain to that listener?
You know what Project is, Tanner? I'm not even thinking about the listener. It's what I want to do for me. And that's a summed up perfect answer. It was something that I started, and I already had an idea that I wanted to do a project even when I was in older Casket. I've always loved I love new metal. I love a lot of aspects of it. I don't like I don't like the guitar tones. That's one thing that bugs me about new metal. But other than that, I love the songwriting. And that's just something that's always held true to me. And if I could write, and that's the way I've always thought, if I can write like that singer, like any new metal, Seven Dust, if you could write and get things across and have that passion, how they're feeling while they're songs, you forget about how perfect the music is. And so that's the way I kind of look at Project. Actually, I'll write a song and I'll lay it down, I'll record it, and I'm done, because I got across what I wanted to get out at that time. And that's how all those songs have been. Both those albums have been on the spot, what I'm feeling. And then Whitey, he does all the screaming, a bunch of, but mainly the cleans. It's all derived off I'll have an idea of what I'm going through or and then I just lay it down and I derive it off that idea of how I'm feeling at that point. And yeah, I don't think about the listener. I don't think about nobody else. It's my mind, you know.
Great answer. I love it.
Thank you.
Now that now that
Damn it.
let's focus now on all the Lazarus stuff, right? So the EP comes out. It takes. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It takes 6-7 years before a new Lazarus Casket album even fucking comes out. What happened?
That's when we went through that transition of losing our drummer, and I focused. Once we lost that, like I said, we all took a step back.
Right.
And Jason, you know, there's so much he can push for us, and there's so much I can push for the other instruments. So that's when I went for project. I always told Jason, I'm here. Like once we want to get this the wheels turning, and let's fucking do it. But I'm not going to sit stagnant. And that's why I focused on project for those 2 albums. And then now I'm back, you know, now we found the whole group of guys like, and Daniel, I'm not shitting you, Tanner. You listen to this new album, the bass is going to rip your ass like that. We finally have a bass player, like old school bands where bass is the, not just backbone. The bass is the melody. The bass is the feeling, the emotion, and he's bringing that to the table on this record.
Well, we'll focus on that era. I promise. We'll get to that era. I know you're jonesing to focus on all that stuff, which we'll get to.
No worries. You're good.
But let's do the Warriors of Sacrifice release. Walk me through the recording process. It's kind of like a Frankenstein of sorts, because every time I listen to it, it's like, you know, you got, you know, every other song essentially is like, you know, part 1, 2, 3. So there's like, you know, it's like an intro, 2 songs, intro, 2 songs, and it's like you're trying to tell a story with it. So
it goes back to the story, and
I get that.
That's what
right. But I get that aspect. But I'm saying though, even adding on songs from the EP, I was always kind of curious, you know, the reasoning for it and why not do just all brand new material.
So those never, like we talked earlier, that we didn't press that EP. Those 2 songs, Your Demise and Engraved, those were great songs for Jason. That's why we put them on the new one that we're going to push on Warriors. That way they get the love that they should get. That's the only reason they're on there.
Okay.
To justify those songs. That's why we put them on there. And we didn't want to put on, we could have put on different songs off that EP, but those were written by our old singer. So we took the 2 that Jason did and put them on, and they're hooks. They're good songs.
Absolutely.
Why not?
I'm not discrediting it. I'm just saying, you know, it's kind of, that's why I call it the Frankenstein album, because
it is.
It literally is recorded in like, you know, a couple of different studios. But just walking through the recording process on say all the other songs, you know, walk me through it. Walk me through just recording the guitars. This is where you come in on the producing side of things, you know. Maybe
so a lot of things nowadays will start with I'll have riffs, and I'll record them to a click, those riffs. Whitey will come in my studio, play drums, and that's how we build them. That's how they start. They all start pretty much from raw click to but we're using 7 strings. So that's the new thing with the Warriors. The 2 songs that we added on there, those are still our 6 strings. So it's always progressing. That's why I'm using 7s on these. And then that's why you're getting that dumpy sound. So it's finding that in between, how to still, you know, make it death metal or not, you know, too dumpy.
Right. Finding that balance. I totally get that.
Finding that balance. But that's pretty much a process. Like I'll start the guitars, he'll come in, do the drums, and then Brian will come in, overlay anything that he's feeling, and really I push that on everybody. When they get in here, whether we're just jamming, do whatever you're feeling. Don't pay attention to what I'm playing, don't pay attention to what he's playing, you know, get yourself out, and that's how things are moving so creatively these days.
Oh, absolutely. But and then even before this, we should talk about how Brian gets into the fold here, because he initially wasn't supposed to be a full-time member. He was supposed to be like, you know, a fill-in for a couple shows.
I think Neil's memorial show.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So walk me through, him
Well,
just
me
doing
and
the
him,
show, and
believe it
then
or not, when we were doing our EP back in 2013, 14, me and Brian wrote Your Demise together in my old apartment. We wrote it just standing acoustically with guitars plugged in. And I don't even know Brian. Jason just introduced us that we were going to. So when Jason got out of All God's Kill, me and him and Brian were going to start like a Suffocation type band. That was our plan. Then Brian got into his other band. What was it? I know you know who they are, but he lived out in Fountain Valley. He went out and so we were gonna start the band, but it was too far of a drive to Long Beach to get with me and Jason at the time. Brian was going through some things, but we wrote Your Demise. I took that because that song was great, and that's why we put it on the EP. But Brian actually wrote that before he was even in the band. I didn't even know him. He just came to Jason, hooked us up. He came to my apartment. We wrote that song, and back now that's how the idea of Brian coming back in, because we were going to play Neil's memorial and Brian knows the songs, or no, he knows, he's familiar. So we brought him in, and life was going a lot easier. I got him in our union. So he's working, he's good. And it just worked out. It worked out. We brought him right in.
And you guys gel so well just as a 2-guitar attack.
Oh, thank you.
Now,
thank you. Brian's great.
Oh yeah. I think what he brings that's different from you though is just a sense more of a like a rhythmic pattern that you might, be lacking, and it's no knock to you. You offer different things than he does. But when it's the fact that like he wasn't supposed to be in, but got in, and you guys gelled so well together, because I remember
that's
Jason,
the hardest thing, and that.
You
know that from ground.
Yeah, I know that. All right. But even just talking with Jason, it's like this guy, like, we weren't supposed to be a 2-guitar band, and the fact that we are, he just brings not only the weight of the sound, but he brings also a rhythmic pattern and a different sense of writing riffs than say you can. So it's good to have that writing
absolutely
partner,
absolutely
the partnership within the writing styles.
You both bring two different things to the table.
Absolutely. And that's why I think this record
not just playing
so
the
well.
same, it goes back to not just playing the same thing that the other guitarist is playing, or when they come in here, it's like, do what you do. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Add another, not a layer, but just add another evolution to the song.
Absolutely. And I think that's why Warriors of Sacrifice worked so well for me personally, just because I knew some of the backstory behind it. I knew, certain things, and I was like, man, this works so well. Because what Aaron's doing is obviously he's bringing in, and these are older songs, most of this stuff. So I know your style compared to his is, it just gels. It just gels for me.
But like you said, we needed that. We need that, because I come a lot from the soul when I play. Like I'll scream some things, but that's where I'll tend to not hit those rhythmic patterns. That's where beauty. And when he goes into wailing guitar leads, I'm learning off anything. You all get inspiration off each other. I'm learning a lot of rhythmic patterns off him. So that's the beauty of everything. We're all learning from each other, and we're putting it to a good use.
Absolutely. And the
initial, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Yeah, well, the initial reaction to it obviously was great. You guys released it last year. May of last year, right? Yeah. Which people tend to forget, but I didn't.
Well, 2020 has gone by so fast.
Dude, it's so crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, but so you release it, and then there's some PR push behind it. You're starting now to get that momentum and being confident. What you said before in
we have a record your guys' where everyone in the band could be confident together, and that's when
and put in the funds to make it happen. But the thing too,
you got to throw that in, huh?
I did.
You know how it is.
I do. I'm hanging out, so we're honest here on the show. That's what the show's about.
Absolutely. That's how we all grow.
That's right. But I think that was such a smart decision, and why it's become a success. So far, it's only been a year. Give it time. And then
let us get out and push it.
Yeah.
Open shit up, and we'll push it.
Well, considering that none of us have done that, and we've released records that people still enjoy, is a testament to the songs
Absolutely.
and the productions and the takes on those records. So I can speak for myself. I'm grateful for it. Now
Thank you,
with
brother.
but with you guys, it's the same deal. Where are you at now in terms of writing for the Lazarus Casket, the new record? Talk to me a little bit about, Daniel coming into the fold, the writing process, and where you guys are now at recording wise.
So the new record, I came out of Europe last December. I went out there for a full month, did a full stadium tour with the band Viral, and we hit Germany. It was awesome, Tanner. But we come back and we had a showcase right before for a bunch of labels. We had a showcase in LA for Viral. And I knew things were going to get busy. This was before the pandemic hit, like right before, coming out of December. We had the showcase set up. Funny shit is, the day before the showcase, that Thursday of the Friday, is when they shut everything down, all the bars, all the clubs. So we had one in club, Bar Sinister. That was our showcase. And so that all shut down. So I'm thinking, before that point, I'm like, we got to get busy. If I was telling Jason, I'm like, I'm going to be busy on the road, constantly out in Europe. Eventually I'll be everywhere. I'm not going to be able to really give the time to write a new record. So let's do it now, right when everything's shut down. Me and Jason both buckled down and we're like, let's utilize the time while you're still here in town. You're not busy. Let's create a new record so we can push that after you leave. We have something to sit on, because Warriors is still new, but we want something, because I could see, Tanner, we talked earlier, I could see things getting a lot busier.
Well, and it took you fucking 9 years to release something after the EP. You probably want to get something.
Yeah,
out,
right. We
like
finally have a click and fucking utilize it. Write records.
Right.
Write fucking records.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but where
that has a lot to do with it too.
Totally. But talk to me a little bit about Daniel coming in, meeting him and having him come into the fold,
So Daniel was a big fan of Project Human. That's how I met him. He would go to our shows, and didn't know him before. He played in a band, Downfall of Man. And I've seen him play, and I was like, I always knew he had something. He had his whole pedal board. You don't see a lot of bassists with that, with the wah flanger, the whole setup. That guy knows his fucking tone, like a bassist. And that always intrigued me. Never thought anything of it, Tanner. And then what happened? So he came into Jesse left Project, our bassist for Project.
Right.
And Daniel, we gave him the option to come in. He came in. He was with the other band. He didn't know if he could do it, but then he really got motivated, and he came in, killed it for Project. But Project is a little more easy listening to. I didn't really know what he could bring until we brought him. So dude stepped out of Casket, and he's my best friend since we were little. I'll never disrespect him. I always tell him he has a home to come back to if need be. We could always make something work. Dude stepped out. He's like, I'm busy. With the pandemic and everything, he's a inspector in LA. So things just he couldn't put the time in, and he knows how I am. I'm very pushy. That's all I ask of anyone, is just be honest. And if you can't be honest, don't bullshit me. And he knows that, just being a best friend. And he's like, hey, I can't give you what you want, on constantly writing and doing what we do. And I said, that's fine. He's like, and then I said, well, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to kick you out. And he's like, well, I'll step out. And then that's when I hit up Daniel, and Daniel is also, he likes Casket. I didn't know that, but I think that's more his genre rather than Project. So when he came into Casket, it all goes back to, you got to give everyone freedom to do what they want. Whether you being a producer, you got to make that. And that's another thing with Mark Hagblad. He was very, you do it my way. You do that works for so long, but you're not going to get that emotion out of a player doing it that way. So once we let Daniel do what he wants to do, it'll show on this new record.
I'm
You-
excited to
the
hear it,
bass is
man.
clanking. We're doing layers of it. We're bringing out highs, lows of just bass.
What is left to record on it still?
So we're gonna do. We have 6 covers, and you guys are gonna fucking love them. They're in our own genre or our sound, and we're giving great tribute to these bands. I can't name the bands yet,
So
but
is it a cover? It's a cover album?
not a total cover album. We're gonna have originals, a couple originals, but the beef of it is gonna be a cover tribute album, not a cover, but a tribute in our own style.
Okay, interesting. When can we expect this thing to come out?
I would think May-ish, May or
Oh,
June,
wow.
sometime before summer.
Wow, so a year to almost to the date that Where's the Sacrifice came out.
Yep.
Like it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're almost there. Jason has, I think, three or 4 more songs to do on vocals.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now lastly, what I wanted to talk to you about, and I appreciate you giving me a couple minutes of your time
Absolutely.
to come on the show and hang. You know, it means a lot.
Been too long.
It's been way too long. Is the viral era? You know, talk to me just about getting into the band.
So I tried. I got a tryout. I got a invitation to come try out for this industrial metal band. We're working with Billy Graziati from Biohazard. Sendog is on one of our
Nice.
songs. Yeah, on the older album that we're working on new stuff. So I'm working studio with side to side with a pretty big producer right now, and we're creating a new record for these labels. So that's been the buzz on that right now. Problem is, I'm too. I can't wait for you to hear it. I just can't release it till the world releases, you know?
Right. But did you, when getting into the project, did you know somebody from the band or try out for them or?
Tried out.
Okay. How did you hear about them?
Through talking through a bass player that we actually hired playing the hard rock for Casket. We had to get this guy, Garrett Conroy. Dude couldn't make it out to Tahoe when we played the Extermination, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was a band or the fest. He couldn't make it, so I reached out. I hired some guy, and then got word of what was going on, and you know me, I'm a whore. I'm a music whore, so I'm gonna do it.
I love it. And getting into the project, obviously, when can we expect something from that camp? Can you say like
there's
year?
already releases. You can get to. Oh, go ahead.
I'm talking the one you're working on now.
Not until the labels come in. Not till the industry opens up.
So like next year, the year after,
we're shopping it. But we already found homes for it. It's just got to wait for the industry to open up.
I totally.
And then we can release.
Well, last but not least, give me your links where people can find everything that they want: merch, CDs, compact discs.
Well, you guys know
LPs.
Hang on.
Cassette tapes, stickers, t-shirts.
Cassette tapes, 8-track.
That's right.
Well, no, but you guys know, link in bio on Instagram for Casket. You can find a lot of our stuff. As far as some viral tunes, if you guys want to check out some of the stuff when I tried out, you know, the early, what I toured on Europe, what I played. There's 2 tracks on YouTube and on Apple for Viral Los Angeles. So just you could Google that project. It's everywhere. Link in bios, all that. That's pretty much it. Beyond Cryptic's Fall or Beyond Cryptic Studios, hit me up for any recordings you guys want to get, and that's about it. Yeah,
I love it. Well, dude, thanks so much for coming on the show and hanging. I appreciate, giving me a couple minutes of your time.
I appreciate you, Tanner.
Absolutely. I appreciate you too, my man. Another episode of Popper's Corner. I'm out of here, guys. Cheers.